episode of the Sartorial Geek podcast is sponsored by Little Petal. Little Petal is the most comfortable, subtly nerdy convertible dresses you can imagine. They're all made based on your measurements, and they all have pockets. The designs are based on your favorite characters, and they're subtle enough that they can be worn to work parties, but you can also wear them to a Comic-Con. They're super, super comfy, and if you're nervous about the wrap dress part, they have over 40 tutorials on their website, so you don't have to worry about that. You can use the code Sartorial for free shipping, so go check them out at littlepetal.net. Hey, welcome to the Sartorial Geek podcast. I'm Jordan Ellis of Jordan Dene, and I'm here with my friend Kim Rogers.
Hello, hello.
So I've been wanting to talk to you about a lot of stuff, but then when you just did your recent trip to New Zealand to do all things Hobbit related, that was the time I knew we had to definitely sit down and talk. We're Facebook friends, and I was obsessively stalking your trip every second of the way. So
worrying that I was being obnoxious at some point on some
no.
where it was so. I mean, when I got home, I think I had over 1,000 pictures between my phone and my camera, and then pictures that my tour mates would send and whatever. And it was
that's so awesome.
I was there for 2 weeks, so I actually don't think 1,000 pictures is excessive. But
no, and you're on the trip of a lifetime. You go all the way across the world from New York, so you got to do it up while you're there.
Yeah, exactly. And just every single thing that I saw was just I still am having a hard time processing it, that it was real. And I just keep looking at my pictures just to be yeah, that happened. And that's real.
That's so
and
awesome.
All that kind of stuff. So
was it a specifically, because you went on a pre-planned tour, right?
I went on a tour. It's called Red Carpet Tours.
First of all, the best name.
Yes. They are the preeminent Lord of the Rings tour in New Zealand, endorsed by Peter Jackson. They, this company has built up relationships with, people and companies all over New Zealand. We got to go on private property for, some things, that not all these other tour groups get to do. And then plus, they've been running these, I think, Julie is my tour guide, and she'll probably kill me for messing up the dates. But I know at least they've been running it for, a decade, probably
amazing.
more. They did it when the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out, and then when the Hobbit trilogy came, they were able to add things, obviously, and that also, I think, created a renewed interest. Not that I ever think the interest on this went down or anything like that,
but it always helps to have new stuff. I'm sure that's
exactly.
so
new
awesome.
Things to do. So
start at the beginning. I don't know anything about it other than Picture World. So tell me everything.
When the trip came about is I was sitting. I had a trilogy day of Lord of the Rings with my friend Shannon. And I had already been kind of being well, my 40th birthday's coming up. I want to do something amazing to celebrate my life. And I kind of showed her the website for this tour group, and she was you have to go.
Yeah.
And then I pitched it to my dad, being this is what I really want. It's really expensive, but also you paid for my sister's weddings.
Fair.
And, aren't I owed this too? And luckily he looked at me and he was you're exactly right. And
that's awesome.
So I also had a GoFundMe, for all of my friends, being this is my Carrie Bradshaw moment. I'm registering this for myself.
Right.
And, so they ended up giving all the money that, I spent on all the excursions and souvenirs. So actually, they bought their own presents.
Yeah, no, that's honestly so cool to be able to do that.
So yeah, it's 2 weeks, and I flew into Auckland after making a quick stopover in LA because I could get a direct flight from LA to Auckland. So I stopped in LA and like spent the day there and then flew to Auckland. And then it's like, I got to Auckland at like 9 a.m. on Saturday, got to my hotel after like my flight left at 9 p.m. on Thursday. So I lost Friday. And then, got to Auckland and kind of had like the day to bum around Auckland a little bit. And then we had like our welcome dinner that night in the hotel. And then like the second day, it's like we went to Hobbiton. Like,
oh my God. So just jumped right in. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's no messing around here. Like, so we started north and worked our way south. And
that's so cool. Was it all in New Zealand? I should know this.
Yeah, it was all in New Zealand. New Zealand is 2 islands. It's the North and South Island. And so, I saw pretty much the entire country in the 2 weeks that I was there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Was there any non-Lord of the Rings stuff, or was it like explicitly?
We did some things because obviously we traveled in our bus, which was named Shadowfax, was the name of our bus.
Amazing.
And so we would, they were very, very good about planning outings and stuff. Like, so it wasn't like we were spending the whole day in a bus on a long travel day. Like, we would always take rest stops in different towns. The day we got to Rotorua, where Hobbiton is like an hour away from there, it was like you have the afternoon and there is a Polynesian spa right across the street from the hotel.
Oh, so, cool.
Like, we went to, the hot springs and all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
29 people on my tour, which was
cool.
Awesome. People from all over the world. There were actually only 2 Americans that were on it the whole time. There was one other American that left after 6 days because you can do like a 6-day tour, a 10-day tour, or the 14.
You did the 14, right?
Oh, yeah. Because I was like,
cool.
Man, it's like if you're going, like, do the whole
Honestly,
thing.
Yeah. If you're going from here.
Because like we had a girl who did the 10-day tour, so she joined us in Wellington. But that means she missed Hobbiton. And it's like...
That's would be the whole point for me.
Yeah. And so it was the 2 Americans that were there the whole time. We had like so many Canadians. I think there were like 8 Canadians.
That's awesome.
And I think 6 or 7 Brits, and then a handful of Aussies. I think there were 5 Aussies. We had a couple from Denmark, a girl from Sweden, 3 Scotsmen, a German, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Right. That's perfect.
So it was, and just like and you kind of like, I read on the TripAdvisor, beforehand, and like, oh, you form these like lifelong friendships. And I kind of going into it was like, do you really though?
Yeah. Like, come on.
And I was like, anticipating spending a lot of time by myself and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's absolutely true. Like by the 3rd day, we had like our little clique that we called ourselves the back of the bus, because we were all the back of the bus.
Perfect.
And we really like bonded that 3rd day, because hilariously and ironically, the one place we were not able to go was Mordor.
What?
I know, because it's way up high on Mount Ruapehu, and the day we were supposed to do it, the weather was not great.
No,
like a really dense fog, and like God bless our bus driver, because we were going. I mean, we were up in the mountain, and the fog was getting denser and denser, and I'm sitting there, and like and these roads are winding. And I'm sitting on the bus being like, we're going to turn around. We're going to turn around. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, that's
we
scary.
can do this. And sure enough, we turned around. But then we ended up, like, we were at this chalet where actually the stars stayed while they were filming. That was our...
Whoa, okay.
And so we got there earlier than anticipated, obviously, because we didn't get to do Mount Doom. And So
That's, first of all, that's just still such a crazy sentence to say out loud. That's so cool.
we didn't get to do Mount Doom, but one does not simply bus into
That's perfect. If you're gonna miss something, that's the best story.
I mean, I was bummed, obviously, but like we got so lucky in Hobbiton. First of all, we were on like the last tour of the day because we were doing the banquet at the Green Dragon. And,
well, first of all, what's that? That sounds awesome.
It's the pub in Lord of the Rings.
So there was a banquet there?
Yeah. And like the pub is a working pub, like as part of the normal tours, you end at the Green Dragon and you get like a pint.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's so awesome.
So when we went in though, it was only our bus and one other bus. And so it was like less than 100 people in Hobbiton, which on a normal day, can be thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it was.
So you have the place almost to yourselves. That's amazing.
Did almost have the place to ourselves. We all got to take as many photo ops as we wanted to. No one had to feel rushed.
Yeah.
Every single person got to, do their picture where they wanted it to. And then, we didn't have a drop of rain. And it was
that's amazing.
Crazy. Because even the tour guides were like, it had been raining off and on all day. And, but we didn't have that. So, I mean, I'm kind of I was willing to sacrifice, as cool as Mordor would have been. The fact that we got amazing weather in Hobbiton was awesome. Because that was the thing in New Zealand. The weather was, it really was it could be 4 seasons in one day, even though it was summertime. There, it could be cloudy and rainy. I mean, I think for the most part, we got really lucky with weather. So
that's great. Because you went in November,
December.
Right? December. Okay, December.
So that's the beginning of summer for them. That's June equivalent weather.
Cool. Was Hobbiton the main event? I mean, was that the biggest?
One would think, but it was it just every day was something huge, I mean, obviously Hobbiton was unreal because it looks exactly like it is in the movies. It's
that's so cool.
You walk over the hill and there it fucking is. Sorry,
right? It's just no. Go ahead
for the F-bomb, but
no, it's totally cool.
There it is, and everything there was so detailed. It's all preserved. As it was for the movies. Peter Jackson has ensured that it'll never be turned into a theme park or, anything like that. It's literally just the set that they use that's there for the fans. And
that's cool too, because I mean, nothing against theme park related things. I love me some Disney and Universal, but that's a very cool adult thing to just be able to be this is legit where the movie was, not this is something they made for me, which I still appreciate, but and that's very cool.
Apparently, because I mean, it's on a farm that a family owns. And so now it's a partnership with Warner Brothers and this and this family. I mean, so it's still part of their farm. And supposedly a few years ago, they had thought about putting a convention center there or something like that. And Peter Jackson stepped in and was absolutely not.
That's cool. I think that's cool.
So yeah, but I mean, it really was. It was every day, the second day we went to where they did the Trollshaw Forest for The Hobbit.
Cool.
And just again, it's on a family's farm.
So is that one of the private things you got to do, or is this part of?
They do tours at the Trollshaws, but from what Julie, our guide, intimated was that not many of the tours do that one.
Okay, cool.
A shame because and I'm not even obviously I like Lord of the Rings better than The Hobbit, and so I wasn't expecting much from that location, but it was actually one of my favorite places. Just that the mountains that they have in there, and then we went in the forest, and we went to the site, like, and I have pictures. One of the big things on the tour was like, they would always have photos of like the still from the movie. And then you would like compare it to like, there it is. And it would always be the joke of you take photos of the photos.
Right.
And then you would, place yourself in there. So it's like, I have pictures of me like under the exact rock where Bilbo finds Sting. And they even had like our tour guide always had props for us.
That is a good tour guide. That's great.
Like she had just like this bag of like never ending props, like anywhere we went.
That's so, because it's not like you're traveling across the world and also taking like, it was
movie
like, props with you.
And they had a lot of props at Trollshaw's, like the family had that, but it was like lots of swords. So I got, to play with swords and
the best.
All that kind of stuff. And so that location was really great. And it was not one that I was expecting. And so I think that's why I like loved that one so much. And then I'm just going day by day. And
yeah, please
feel free to tell me to shut up. And then like
no. This is exactly what I wanted. This is amazing.
And then I'm pulling up my photos just so I don't skip anything.
Yeah.
So Trollshaw's was the second day. And then, and a fun story, the Trollshaw, like, so we're in, the forest or whatever, and we come across, and they had found after the filming that they had left one of the marks from when they're filming, and it has like Bilbo written on it on like,
oh my gosh,
cargo tape or whatever. And they were like, we found it and we bolted it down.
Perfect.
So like, I have a picture of like my foot standing next to like Bilbo's mark.
Yeah.
Really cool. And then, so then the day of the Trollshaws was the day that we couldn't get up to Mordor. So that was half of the day. And then the next day we went around to the other side of Mount Ruapehu and were able to get up. And that was where, the scene in the Two Towers when Gollum is fishing in the river.
Yeah.
We went to that location.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
How insane Andy Serkis was, because he filmed it without a harness and like was
my gosh
at the edge of this like plummeting waterfall.
Also, he totally could have, because his body was CG'd anyway.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And he filmed it so they could capture like the motion of him going over those rocks and stuff.
Good on him, man.
And like,
that's
this
awesome.
Is one of the things in Julie's magical bag of props is she had like a Gollum mask.
Perfect.
Like we recreated like, two people would stand further back and on the rock where like Frodo and Sam were, and then people were taking turns being Gollum. And then
that's when it's great to go with like a tour group. Like that's the best.
So many people wanted their turns like to be Gollum. It was never like saying, oh, does someone want to do this? It was always like everyone just like raising their hand, be like, no, of course I want to do this.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, we had kind of like a long travel day to Wellington from after Mount Ruapehu. But that was one of those like days where, we stopped at this like one rest stop that was like a farm, something that had a full restaurant and stuff like that. But then they had like a petting zoo with farm animals, which was
cool.
Very fun. And then, then we get to Wellington and like our hotel's right on the water. Like I walked into my hotel room and like have this balcony overlooking the harbor. And I was just like, what?
That's so cool.
Like, and I loved Wellington like a lot. Like when I moved to New Zealand, I will
that's your place.
Move to Wellington. Well, because it was like it's cosmopolitan. Because that's the capital of New Zealand. But like Auckland is the more populated city.
Yeah, that's the one I've heard more about.
Wellington, like the population is smaller, but it's still very cosmopolitan. A lot of culture there. And it felt very at home to me, like as a New Yorker. Like I kind of like you went out once and you familiarize yourself, and it was like, oh, I can get myself around here, whatever. And we went out to dinner at this restaurant that was like Vigo's favorite restaurant called the Green Parrot. We went there for steaks.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. And then the next day we went up and went to the site where they did the Get Off the Road sequence in Fellowship of the Ring, which is just off of a hiking trail in the middle of Wellington on Mount Victoria. And yeah, I mean, we just like, and of course we recreated that scene as well. Like,
yeah, we'll have to put a bunch of photos in the show notes so people can see.
Yeah. I can send you, or you can look through my Facebook ones and pick out the ones you want. But yeah, we all like would crawl in that little like hollow where the tree was not there, but the road was, and the hill like where they tumbled down, and Merry and Pippin with the vegetables or whatever. And then like we did go into the actual tree. It's from a scene in the extended cut with Frodo and Sam, and Frodo is like resting in the curve of a tree. Next to him, and they're smoking pipes. And so I have pictures of me in that tree, which was
amazing.
Awesome. And then we drove up to the very top of Mount Victoria, which was awesome. And it was so windy. And that's where you had all those selfies of me because I had decided randomly to wear my hair down that day. And like, all of the pictures of my hair in the wind on the top of the mountain overlooking this amazing city, that it was just like, what?
Yeah, I feel like every single thing about this trip is meant for the most beautiful photos you'll ever take.
I mean, it's like,
which is great.
I'm never going to be like wanting for a Facebook profile picture ever.
Perfect.
And then after we did the top of the mountain, we went to the Wellington airport for funsies.
Cool.
Because they have all of these sculptures from Weta there, which Weta was the special effects and the prosthetics and pretty much everything. So there are sculptures hanging from the ceiling of Gandalf on the eagles. And then in the baggage claim, there's a big head of Smaug.
So if you fly into that airport, that's like what you're greeted by.
Smaug is like there at the baggage claim.
Amazing.
And I think it's one, because I had seen this Smaug before at Comic-Con. So I don't know if they made multiple ones or if like that's the one that like just went around, because I definitely...
Yeah, I remember seeing that at Comic-Con too.
I mean, even at New York Comic-Con too.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we went to, for lunch, we went to this historic movie theater that Richard Taylor, who's the head of Weta, bought and restored. There was like a big, statue of Gandalf outside, statues inside. One of the Oscars that Weta won for Return of the King is in there.
I think it's so cool that this trip is like all encompassing. So it's not just like places that the movies were made. It's like every bit of things that touch this series. I mean, that's so cool.
We spent 3 days and, it was more like 2.5 days. It was 3 nights and like 2 days in Wellington. And we got a whole tour at Weta Workshop. And like went to Weta Cave, which is where, I dropped probably like $200 worth of
you have to.
From and then like the tour we got at Weta, like it was such kind of like an exclusive tour that we couldn't take pictures.
Oh, wow.
Just because of like, proprietary rights and, Weta does things other than just Lord of the Rings. I mean, they worked on Avatar and just all these different kind of movies. So we did a whole tour through of them showing us like armor and prosthetics and going into like the history of the studio. And it was super, super cool. The whole time I was in there, I was thinking of our friend Adrian, who is a PA. And I was like, Adrian would be losing her mind.
Yeah, totally.
Right now. And then that night we got like, and again, it was like we all hung out a lot. you know, and we would all at least like meet up for drinks, but it was like that second night in Wellington, everyone kind of like, a lot of people decided to do their own thing, or some people were doing laundry and stuff like that. So that was the night that I went out shamelessly, and I had like planned it, and I had really like, I was like, oh, am I going to have time to go or not? Because now I have friends. Because again, I was anticipating on being alone a lot. But there was a bar that One Direction infamously partied in. And,
that's awesome.
And I had found the bar. It's no longer the bar that it was, but like the structure is the same. And it's, you know, it's a different bar now. And when everyone like decided to do their own thing, that was when I was like, sweet, I can go.
That's perfect. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know Kim, she's also a huge One Direction fan.
And I didn't want to like drag any of my new friends to like indulge me on this, like literally, like I just wanted to go. I had a glass of wine at the bar, you know, took a lot of pictures.
Yeah, perfect.
I had some Harry Styles stickers in my wallet. And
of course you did.
Of course I did. And I left them at the restaurant. I like stuck them. So anyone that goes to Coco's Bar and Grill, look behind one of the barrels and on one of the poles, and you will see a Harry Styles sticker that I just kind of left.
So crazy.
I left like homage to them because I was like, here, boys, I was here. I was really proud of myself. And then I just kind of like walked along the waterfront, you know, and just kind of like enjoyed the night by myself in Wellington. And then, you know, went back to the hotel in time for the late happy hour and met up with people and had wine there. And then
perfect.
The last day in Wellington, we did have some like shitty weather that day, but it was a day that we were inside all day. And this was a day like Sage was texting me and she was like, it's like you're at a 2-week convention, because we had actor Jed Brophy, who was in all 3 of the Lord of the Rings movies as like orcs and monsters and stuff. And then he was actually Nori the dwarf in the Hobbit trilogy.
Oh, cool.
And so he came to like give a talk. He brought, you know, because he got to keep his knives and stuff like that. So he brought, you know, the handful of things that he got to keep from the movies, and then just was, you know, basically like at any con, just like up there, like talking about what, you know, it was like for him. His Ian McKellen impression was so dead on. It like freaked me out.
That's very good.
Yeah, he was super cool. And then in the afternoon, they had Daniel Reeve come in, and he was the person who designed all the maps and did all of the calligraphy for the movies, like for all 6. And so
that's like really iconic too.
Yeah,
that's
like he
incredible.
brought in like one of the versions of like the big contract that Bilbo had in Unexpected Journey, you know, when he runs down the thing, I'm going on an adventure. And, you know, and he talked about how he's also like completely self-taught, because like you can't go to school to like learn how to be a calligrapher, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know that, but that doesn't sound like something you can do. Yeah.
He had designed, you know, fonts for every, you know, like Gandalf has a different font than like Samwise Gamgee would have. And so he, you know, talked about all of that. And then like you were able to buy, you know, he had a whole bunch of prints that you could buy the maps, or that he had written out quotes from the trilogy, you know, by hand. And then he also was taking commissions, and that's
cool.
how he designed my tattoo that I got in Queenstown.
So you got it designed there and then also got it there?
Yes, I got him to write out, and it was so funny when you did your shirt of the month for me. When you picked Even Darkness Must Pass, and that was literally the line after the one that I got tattooed on me. Because
that's so crazy, because I definitely didn't know that.
I did not tell you that. And so when you released that, I like screamed. So mine was It's Only a Passing Thing, This Shadow. And so, I told him that's what I wanted. And he kind of like, he also like took a sheet of like scrap paper and was like, and I was like, and I want it in the Sam font because it's a Sam quote.
Yeah.
And he like, pulled out a scrap sheet of paper at first just to be like, oh, let me, figure out the spacing, how it would look best. Cause I told him, I was like, I want this for a tattoo. And he just like whipped it out to where I almost was like, can I take that sheet of scrap paper?
Right. That's good. We'll go with that one.
I mean, he was like, anytime anyone was commissioning something, he would just kind of like scribble first and then like do the serious one. So I, not only did I get the tattoo, I got to keep, the print on the really fancy cardstock of the tattoo, and like he signed it. And
I love that.
All that. And then we just had another night in Wellington. We actually went back to the Roxy Theater for dinner because they had a really fancy restaurant there, and they had a world famous mixologist who had actually made us cocktails after the Weta tour. And so cool. Been like, come back, I'll make you a whole bunch of more. And he did. He brought us like, a whole bunch of these fancy cocktails for free.
Whoa.
I know. I mean, it was like 3, like for the table of 12 to share, but they all had like dry ice and like were bubbling, and it was crazy. Cool. So that was the North Island. And then there's a ferry between the 2 islands, and it's like a 3-hour boat ride. Where one of my tour mates got really seasick, and I felt, because it was like going out of Wellington, I was like, oh God, like if the whole 3 hours are going to be like this, I'm in trouble. But it kind of like, once we got far enough out of Wellington, the waters kind of calmed down a little bit. For me, it was better like when I went outside on that observation deck and you could actually like see everything, that kept me from getting seasick. We saw dolphins, which was cool.
Oh, cool.
And just like Jordan, like the water was so blue. Like, again, I was like, is this fake? Like, I've never seen water like that before. And then just, and then also like going through the islands, I was getting serious Lost vibes.
This episode of the Sartorial Geek Podcast is sponsored by Jordan Dene. Jordan Dene is your one-stop shop for fandom fashion. We've got everything you need to put together a casual cosplay outfit or add a little geekery to your home. Our designs are all inspired by our favorite characters in stories throughout history and pop culture. You can check us out at conventions all over the country at jordandene.com and all over the internet at Jordan Dene NYC.
That's also so cool that like, not only are all the things you're seeing cool, but like then you get to do all these cool actual experiences too. Like a boat trip, like every part of this sounds perfect.
Yeah. And then we get to the South Island, and then we went kayaking down.
Amazing.
I know. And it was like where they filmed the dwarves in the barrels.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that was like, it was like a 2-hour kayaking thing, we were all put in pairs and in these kayaks. So that was fun. Only one kayak capsized.
Okay, that's not bad.
Well, because like we went down like a pretty like hardcore rapid, like was the first thing. And like, they just like capsized that first one. And we were like, oh God. But the kayaking was so fun. It was so fun. I would have done it for several more hours. I was actually kind of bummed when we like got out. But then I got to like, they had one of the barrels that were from the movies. So I have a picture of one of the barrels. And then we went to this town called Nelson, which was super. I loved Nelson as well. That's where, when I moved to New Zealand, I will have like my writer's retreat.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because it was, it's small, but just like we had a lot of fun there. We went to this bar that was in like an old church, had been converted into a pub, and all, just had a good time there. And then
was there a movie thing there, or was it just like a cool town?
Nelson was, there were a lot, in Nelson is where the guy who designed the One Ring is. And so we went to their studio the next day and had a talk. I mean, unfortunately, the designer of the ring passed away, but his son obviously still carries on. Because just like the thing about New Zealand is like everyone like is so proud to have been like a part of these movies. Like it's not any sort of like, oh God, these people again. It's just like everyone has so much pride for what they did as a country.
That's so cool too, because it is a bummer going on a tour, and I absolutely understand why this happens. But when it's like, oh, cool, more tourists, great, can you stop visiting me? Like that's very cool that it wasn't like that.
Our friends went to Salzburg, and like she was like, nobody cares about the Sound of Music there.
Yeah. And I mean, as a New Yorker who is like very over tourists all the time, I totally get it. But it's way better experience as a traveler when people like the thing you're there for.
It was super cool going there. And he had like, rings that were used in movies. There was one that, I don't know if you saw that picture of the one that was the size of my hand.
Yeah, that was used. I thought it was a bowl. No. Like I thought you were like eating soup out of it. It's so big.
For close-ups, and like you can see how they like polished the outside of it to be so reflective. Like, I mean, I have a picture like of my reflection like in the ring, which is super cool. And then that afternoon we did, which was one of the highlights for me and this was an optional thing because it was like, this was the thing with the tour. Like there were, obviously like all of our lodging and breakfasts and like a handful of lunches and dinners were included. And like most of the activities were included, but there were a handful of like optional things that, not everybody, if it was in your budget, which again, like had to be in your budget, you're here.
Yeah.
So was the helicopter tour.
Whoa.
Which I had, although my parents are claiming that I was in a helicopter in Hawaii, but I was like, I was 10. I don't remember.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
So I had never been in a helicopter to where I can remember it. And they flew us up to, and again, that day we had gorgeous weather. Like that. So again, it's like, I can't complain about missing Mordor because like, the fact that it was like hot, clear, beautiful blue sky with big clouds for the helicopters and going up, because we went up to the mountains where in Fellowship of the Ring, where they shot when they come out of Moria after Gandalf, after You Shall Not Pass, and they lose Gandalf. And there's that beautiful shot of Elijah standing on the cliffs crying and turns and he does the single tear. Bloop.
Yeah.
So we went to those rocks, and it was like, and I'd always joked with everyone on the tour that I was like, oh, I'm a crier. I'm going to cry a lot. And I hadn't cried until I got out of the helicopter. And it wasn't even necessarily that it was like that sight or whatever, but just like being in a helicopter on a mountain in New Zealand and seeing this like amazing scenery, because it looked fake. Like those rocks, they were so gray. Like I thought that they looked like they were polystyrene, and had been spray painted, but they were real. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, so I cried because I was just really overwhelmed. And then they flew us to the rocks or the mountainside where, also in Fellowship of the Ring, where they're kind of like camping out for a little bit, and like Boromir is teaching Merry and Pippin how to sword fight, and like sitting on a rock, and it's when like the crows come, when Legolas is like, crows from wherever.
Right.
So it was like I got to like sit on the same rock that like Ian McKellen sat on, and
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it looks just like the movie. Like it's not nothing ever was a letdown.
That's like truly impressive that's true. Yeah. Like, and I believe you. That's just so cool.
Nothing was a letdown. And then we had another night in Nelson, and I, went out, got some really good Thai food, and ended up going with, because at first I was going to go by myself because it was another night where, it seemed like everyone was going to do their own thing. And, but then I met up with this older British couple that was in our tour group, and they were like, well, we don't know what we're doing for dinner yet. Can we come with you? And so I went out to dinner with Peter and Candy, and
Perfect.
had a great time, because I hadn't spent a ton of time with them. So that was just another thing that was so cool about the whole trip, was just getting to know all these people that you never would have met before. And she's like this badass silversmith. She taught like the equivalent of shop in the UK. And I'm just like, you're amazing.
That's so cool.
Her husband kind of like, because we had this one girl who had a little stuffed Groot, a little stuffed baby Groot.
Oh.
So he became like the mascot of the tour, just going and like you put Groot and take a picture of Groot at Bag End, or, and Gail did not do the helicopters, but she gave Groot to Peter to take up in the helicopters. And so
that's very cool.
And then it just became a thing with Peter. Like Peter always had Groot. We were, Groot went so many places.
I love that.
And then the next day was going to Erebor, which was, was that? I can't remember. I think maybe then I'm trying to look at my outfits.
That's a great way to.
Oh yes. No, the next day was Erebor, from the Two Towers. It's Mount Sunday is the name of it.
Okay.
And
cool.
we hiked all the way up to the top.
Wow.
Yeah. It was very steep.
Yeah.
But everybody did it. The entire, 29, no matter how long it took some people, like we had this really great guide who was an extra for Rohan.
Nuh-uh.
And he
that's so cool.
had a beard, like we called him Grandolph. He had a big long beard, and he showed up in like a Gandalf hat with a Gandalf walking stick. And and he was really great about stopping at certain places on the hike, so it didn't ever feel like you were going to die. Good.
That honestly, that's important.
Yeah, because like it was steep. It wasn't a very long hike, but it was pretty much. And like you look at the pictures, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look necessarily that high. It's very high.
Yeah.
And so, we got to the top, and again, Julie had like the Rohan flag, and, there are pictures of me, standing on the top, waving the flag of Rohan. And then she also had like an Eowyn dress that everyone was able to put on, to do the shot of like, her standing, looking out, and her hair blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, it's like I'm very speechless about it. And I'm just repeating myself saying it was amazing, but we had a slight bummer because it was kind of cloudy, so we didn't get. I mean, the snow caps kept trying to peek out, but yeah, we had kind of like low hanging clouds that day, but it makes the photos amazing.
Yeah. That's so cool too. I was just thinking, like, so many movies are a lot of CG, so like you don't get this very often where you can go to a place that legit looks like the movie, because it is.
It's obviously like the Golden Hall does not stand there anymore, because it was like they built it and then took it down, and then like they had even moved plants or stuff, and they kept the plants alive like in the swamps, and then even the plants back to where they had been in their original positions and stuff. Because, I mean, again, they just like were taking care of New Zealand.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, it was like, exactly what it looks like in the movie. Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then the next day we went, and this was one of the things on private property, is we went to where they filmed Pelennor Fields in Return of the King.
Which one is that? Oh, yeah, cool.
The big battle in Return of the King, and I wore that day, because again, and I themed my shirts to most days. And that's where like your shirts like came in handy a lot. Cause like the one on Rohan, I was wearing the Beauty and the Beast that I want somewhere. Cause I was like, that seems fitting for this mountain and standing on the top of the mountain and all that kind of stuff. And so for Pelennor Fields, I had another shirt that was the I Am No Man for Eowyn killing the Witch King.
Yeah.
This is a great story. So like the woman whose farm it is, because again, it's everybody's massive farms. She gets on the bus and she's telling a story and she pulls out this spear that is almost twice my size. And it was a spear from the battles that someone visiting the farm found like 7 years later.
That is very cool.
In like a sheep paddock. And because New Zealand is pure, because like if that had happened in America, like they would have just kept the spear.
Yeah, that's that person's now, and no one ever sees it again. And that's how that
like
goes.
This visitor like brought it back to the family, being like, you may want to keep this.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so I was wearing my Eowyn shirt, and I borrowed a friend's cloak, and of course Julie had a Witch King mask, and so I have pictures of me like killing the Witch King on Pelennor Fields with the spear from the movies.
Amazing.
And then after that, we went to where they filmed all the Lake Town sequences for The Hobbit.
Oh,
the second Hobbit movie, which I don't remember those as much because I feel like I need to give the Hobbit trilogy another chance after this trip. But I just remember like the first go around, I was like, these are not as good as Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty universal. Yeah. But I remember that part because I think that I am not 100% sure, but I think that's the part that Stephen Colbert had a cameo in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I like watched it a lot looking for him.
And this is on another person's farm, and like it was the most surreal experience of my life because it was like, because it's his property, like you have to do whatever he wants to do, and then you get to see like the Hobbit stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Like, took us on a whole tour, like talking about his family, and like took us into his like man cave.
Okay.
I mean, there's a picture of me that because I just started like panic laughing because I was, this is so surreal. And I like can't even, I mean, I did a whole Instagram story about it, which I should have saved. But it was, it's just like, I can't even really like put it into words what.
Yeah, that's not what you're expecting. No,
it was just like, and he had like a Ferris wheel for his shoes in there, like a legitimate Ferris wheel. And then there were mannequins, and I was just like, why are there mannequins? What's going on? And then he had like this wagon that was like made up of old theater seats that like he drove us around the property on, and this wagon. And then we got to see the lake and the mountains, and it was amazing and worth it. And like, I'll say one thing about it. I'll never forget Farmer Ian.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. It was, I mean, we were all just like,
that's really insane.
It was insane. And I was just kind of like, it is his property, and you have to, if you want to see the Hobbit stuff, you got to do whatever you got to do.
I mean, I get it. That's just real weird.
It was real weird.
That's really funny.
And then the next day, and we're getting like close-ish to the end, which is sad. We drove into Queenstown, which was the last stop, and like dropped off our bags at the hotel. And then we went out, and it was like 7 filming locations, like right outside of Queenstown.
Oh, wow.
Where we went, in the 2 towers, where they find like the funeral pyre for all the orcs when Éomer and all of them killing them, and Aragorn and company are looking for Merry and Pippin, and they go there, and you remember how Aragorn like kicks a helmet and like sinks to his knees and screams. And that's actually like Viggo broke a toe doing that.
No way.
That's the cut that's in the movie is him breaking his toe. And so like that scream is not necessarily him acting.
Oh my gosh. I did not know that.
Yeah. See, and we all knew that. So we were like, cool. And then it was like, the entrance to Fangorn Forest when they go in and, end up meeting Gandalf the White. And again, like so many props, like I'm wearing a cloak and like all of these pictures to where Julie finally had to be like, Kim, you have to give me the cloak back. I had a bow, a bow. So there's like a picture of 3 of us recreating like Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli in Fangorn Forest. And then we come out and that's where like Gandalf summons his big white horse. And then of course there was a horse mask. So someone was Shadowfax. And then it was like the shores of Lothlorien from Fellowship of the Ring. And then the site at the end of Fellowship of the Ring, when Frodo is like hiding in a tree, deciding whether or not he's going to like make a run for it.
Oh yeah.
And it's a real tree. And so, have a picture there and like where Merry and Pippin were hiding. And then that shot at the end of Fellowship where Frodo is like standing on the bank of the river and he's got the ring and he's looking out and he's like, wish the ring had never come to me kind of shot.
Yeah.
And, the exact tree is there. They had just lost one of the branches in a storm, which had sucked. But,
lame.
I know, sucks. And then my Swedish friend went swimming in that lake.
Okay.
Which was awesome. And then we all kind of like waded in and stuff. And then we went into Queenstown, which is like a party city.
Nice.
It reminded me a lot of a city we used to go to in the Smoky Mountains when I was growing up, except classier. And my sister said it reminds her a lot of like Vail or like one of, just like a ski town in the mountains and it's on a lake. And just these amazing mountains. And it's also where all the extreme sports are, which is the next day when I jumped off a bridge.
Yeah, I forgot you did that somehow.
Yeah.
That's so nuts.
It was amazing. I mean, it was the river where they filmed Fellowship of the Ring. So it was like jumping over the river Anduin. And 5 of us did it. I was the only woman. And it was me and 4 of the dudes. And it was amazing. And I would 100%, if we hadn't been on a tight schedule that day, I would have gone again. Like,
really?
Yeah. It was awesome.
And it was bungee jumping, right?
Bungee jumping, yeah. And like this.
That's so wild.
And it was like when I woke up that morning and because I had it booked like since the beginning of the tour. So it was kind of like you're not thinking about it until it's like, it's time. And I kind of was like, oh my God, what am I doing? My mother was like, you have to text me like as soon as you jump. And then I turned around and left my phone on the bus.
Oops.
But it was awesome. And it's just like, the thing is you've already paid for it. Like you can't chicken out.
Yeah, that's true.
And, so you just kind of like go out there and go. And the secret with bungee jumping is going head first. Like, don't jump feet first because that's when you'll get like the whiplash.
Yeah, that's true.
From your body whipping around. And so, I was so focused on just like tuck and roll, Kim, tuck and roll. Like, just make sure you swan dive that I didn't really even have time to be afraid. Because I was just like so focused on going head first.
Oh my God. Good for you, because that is, I don't think that's in the cards for me, but that's very, very cool.
And it's like you're doing it and it was like, oh, I had this sensation that was like, oh, I'm definitely falling. But then it caught you. So,
oh my
it's
gosh.
like, it was amazing. I would have done it again. They have a higher one that's like over 100 meters high. And whenever I get back to New Zealand, I'm going to do the higher one.
Oh my gosh.
It was just amazing.
That's so crazy.
And then we went up to this like, historic gold panning town that really didn't have anything to do with Lord of the Rings, but it was cool. And then we did like a booze cruise around the Lake Wakatipu in Queenstown. And it was like, an hour long cruise. We were all at the top of the boat drinking our wine and enjoying all the scenery. And then I got my tattoo, which was amazing.
So did you have the like appointment ahead of time, or did you find a place while you were there?
How awesome Red Carpet Tours is I emailed Julie in like September being like, I really want to get a tattoo while I'm there. It'll probably be in Queenstown just because that's, the least amount of time that I have to worry about aftercare, because you can't get into pools or water.
Oh, yeah.
Tattoo. And so I was like, if you have any advice for where I should go, I've been looking at a couple studios on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, like, it better than I do. And she writes back and she's like, oh, we have a go-to person.
Oh my gosh.
Because I'm clearly not the first person in these decades of them running this to get a tattoo.
Yeah, but still, the fact that they're like, oh yeah, we got you, don't worry.
That's the studio that I had been most interested in.
Oh, perfect.
And she was like, I will handle booking the appointment for you. And like,
oh my gosh.
And then like an hour later, she emails me being like, okay, so you're booked. And I was booked for one day, but then she had to move it to another day because they were closed for their Christmas party. But she was just like so on top of everything. I never had to worry about anything. And like, you know me and what a like grade A planner I am.
Yeah.
And again, like all I had to do was show up.
That's so great.
And it was like, so as soon as like the booze cruise happened, because it was like, I had like a 30-minute window before like our like official farewell dinner, which was that night. And like this guy and actually the girl who had the Groot had decided like halfway through the tour, she like leaned over to me on the bus and she's like, I think I want to get a tattoo too. And I was like, high five.
Oh, cool.
It was her first tattoo ever. And she was like, we couldn't get an appointment, but they were, hopefully they can, take her as a walk-in. And like, sure enough. And like this guy busted out my tattoo. I mean, I was expecting it to take like 45 minutes, something like that. Cause my tattoo that I got that you designed took like a half.
Oh yeah, you have the first ever Jordan Dene tattoo.
To where one time somebody recognized the tattoo from Instagram.
That's so great. Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, he busted out both me and Gail's tattoos in like 35 minutes.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, he knew what he was doing, and just it's on my rib cage. It hurt. And like my sweet Swedish friend, Alex, like on the booze cruise, she looked at me. She's like, I'm going to come with you to hold your hand. And I was like,
oh,
again, it's like the kind of friends that you make on this that I never was expecting that. And she came and she didn't hold my hand because I was gripping the pillow on my side, but she stroked my hair the whole time and like would give me updates on how, where he was and tell me how amazing I am and all that kind of stuff. So, and then like when he finished is when I like sobbed because it was like the whole trip had been building towards getting that tattoo and that it's going to be on me for the rest of my life. And, it's a really meaningful quote to me. And then just the fact that the trip had been so amazing and all that. And then it was like, so then we had our farewell dinner and then it was just kind of like, there was this like amazing sunset that night on, the lake, and our hotel was right on the lake. And so just like going and seeing that. And then like the last day was devoted to like optional activities that everyone booked ahead of time, which was the only kind of slightly unfortunate thing because like, you don't know what people want to do.
Right.
And, and you also like don't know who your friends are going to be. And all that kind of stuff. So I had booked a zip line tour because that just seemed like it would be really fun. And then actually the other American had booked that as well. And so that was fun. So I got to go with Julia, and it was us. And then we were put in a group with like 3 other people and our guides. And it was like 6 zip lines. The last one was the steepest zip line in the world.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
That's really cool.
It was so awesome. And then I did a wine tour that afternoon, which I unfortunately was by myself with, other people. And it was like Queenstown was crazy because it was where I met the most Americans the entire time I was there. And
interesting.
I was on this wine tour with these like 6 Americans that I was like, shut up. Because they were more interested in drinking the wine. And I'm like, you don't do the wine tour to get drunk. And you don't have enough to get drunk. And, so they kind of like were talking all through the presentations because we went to 3 different wineries. And so I kind of like, and there was a group of Aussies on the tour too. And I kind of kept trying to like scoot over to them, but they were very interested in just because it was 4 of them. So I think it was 2 couples. And they weren't interested in picking up a random American to be their friend.
It happens.
So I loved doing the wine tour, and I brought a bottle back for myself. But yeah, that was kind of one where I wish that I had been able to like book that with my friends.
Yeah.
As opposed to going on my own.
Just what you already had.
But I'd already booked it and paid for it. And so, but it was fun. It was nice to do something by myself, except that like I didn't really like any of the people on the tour.
Right. So other than that,
and then came home, and we, like, our group of friends all went out to dinner for the last night. It was actually like, I think close to 20 of us that all went out to dinner on the final night after everyone had done all their optional activities. And then at midnight, we all ran and jumped in the lake.
Whoa.
This like glacier lake. I mean, it was freezing.
Yeah.
But I was like, me and Alex, who was the Swedish girl, we kind of started it because I was like, I can't leave New Zealand until I jump in this lake. And, people were like, are you going to go in your clothes? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to go back to the hotel and change into my bathing suit. And then, because again, we were right on the lake, so that wasn't a big thing. And so like 8 other people like went back to the hotel at midnight, put their bathing suits on, and then we ran out and all jumped into the lake.
That's such a great way to end the trip. That's
it was
awesome.
The best way to end it. And then it was like, flying out of Queenstown to Auckland. And I was like, and then like some of my tour mates were still in the Auckland airport when I got there. And so it was like,
cool.
Counting down until then I was by myself in the Auckland airport, and then, flew back to Los Angeles and then flew back to New York. So
that sounds like, I always thought like this is on my bucket list. Like I always thought this trip would be amazing, but it sounds like it's maybe the best trip you can take. That's so cool.
Was a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But I honestly, like, you do benefit as an American from the conversion rate because our dollar is stronger than theirs. But it's worth every penny.
Yeah, for like a once in a lifetime experience, that sounds like everything you could ever hope for, which is,
and it's 2 solid weeks. All of the hotels we stayed in were super nice. And the people were amazing. And just like, again, like Julie as a tour guide was just like so on top of everything to maximize everyone's experience. She, really got to know every single person and like knowing what they like. I mean, it was like in Wellington, I realized, halfway through that I was going to need a second suitcase to get because it wasn't even necessarily a matter of space. It was a matter of weight.
Yeah.
So I like said to her at, one point I was like, where can I go to get a suitcase. And like, she knew immediately. She was like, go to this store. It's on this street. And, you know, I went there and I got a new suitcase for like 30 New Zealand dollars. Which,
that's amazing.
you know, comes out to like 22 US.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a pretty nice suitcase, you know? And so, I mean, it's just like that. Like, I mean, there's just so much knowledge of everything. All the restaurants that she recommended were great.
So what's the name of the travel tour again, if anyone is interested?
Tours.
Awesome.
And again, like, I know it's an investment, but you won't regret it. And like I said, I mean, I don't know when or how I will do it, but I'm going to move there, even if it's like a decade from now, and I'll be 50 and fabulous and living in Wellington, retiring in Wellington or something like that. Like,
I love that. Well, that's perfect, because then I'll just come visit you.
Exactly. Just come visit me. I mean, I really, like, it was just like everything about the country the people were wonderful. Just the spirit was great. And also just like seeing all these places from these movies that like I truly adore was amazing. But it's also just like, just the experience and the people that I met. And now I have friends all over Europe, and like my Danish friends are like, anytime you want to come to Copenhagen, we have a spare room. And like,
that's so cool.
That's like the next trip that I'm gonna plan. I was like, once I, you know, kind of financially recover from this one.
Yeah.
And can save up enough money to go to Copenhagen. Because then like my friend that's in Sweden is apparently not very far from Copenhagen. And
that's like what you were saying. That's the best thing to be able to go meet. I mean, you're spending 2 weeks with these people. Yeah. Like, you can really form like a real friendship, which is so cool.
And you're just under such like extreme and intense circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just it is funny. Like, as I look at my pictures, because, you know, obviously it first starts out with just like, you know, a lot of pictures of just me by myself. But then it's like, by the time you get to the end of the tour, it's like group shots, you know, all that, you know, all that kind of thing. It's just, it was really amazing. And I really genuinely hope and believe that I will be friends with these people the rest of our lives. Even if it's a situation where we never see each other again, it's like, we're going to stay connected and stay, you know, up on what everybody's doing. And
plus, that's the power of the internet.
That is the power of the internet. I mean, we still have like a group chat that we talk in every day, you know.
I love that.
You know, and it's been,
that's so cool.
You know, it's been almost a month. No, it's been like 2.5 weeks since we've been back. So, but yeah, and I wore so many of your shirts.
I know. The pictures are the best thing. I was living vicariously through that.
I had one friend who, I mean, it was like every day she was like, what does your shirt say today? Because I had yours. I wore some of Elena's shirts, and then just other ones that I had gotten like specifically for the.
I love it. Yeah, your outfits were on point. They were so great.
Well, because
sorry.
Because I was like, I just dressed comfortably. I think I brought one pair of pants that had a button. The rest of the time I was
good. That's the way to do it. I was gonna say, where are you on the internet for people who are like maybe thinking about planning a trip or would like to someday or want to just see your pictures? Where can everyone find you?
They're all public on Facebook. I did make sure to make that. So like my Facebook address is facebook.com/Kimmy Rocks, KMMIE Rocks, ROCKS. And you can see, because I made those pictures public for people to see, so you don't have to be my friend. I mean, I'm really cool and you could be my friend, but
everyone should be your friend. But that's cool of you to put them up anyway.
Yeah. And then my website is that I run with my best friend. It's headoverfeels.com, and we flail about television and pop culture. It's about to get crazy because we're moving into awards season. So
yes, perfect. So that's the best time to check that out.
We have one friend of ours who is like our fashion maven, and so like Maggie's like gearing up to, she's got a busy 2 months coming.
I love it.
So, but thanks for letting me talk for ages.
Yeah, thanks for chatting about this. I already knew I wanted to do this trip, and I already saw the pictures, but being able to hear about it was the best. I really wish that's what I was planning this year. I'm not going yet, but I would love to.
I had a friend, she's one of our galley friends, and she and her husband went on their own. And you can do, she did a lot of the same things I did. I mean, because she did Hobbiton. She hiked up to Mount Sunday. She did ziplining somewhere. And, so it's like you can go and do a lot. You don't have to do the guided tour. But, I mean, I just got so much out of the guided tour.
Yeah, it seems like it really added a lot, which is very cool.
The fact that I didn't have to worry about booking hotels anywhere. So you can do it on your own, but I recommend doing the guided tour. Because also it's just a great way to travel. It was a great way for me to travel by myself, but I wasn't by myself. So it was amazing.
I love that. Thanks so much for telling us all about your trip, Kim.
Thanks for having me. I hope everyone enjoyed my babbling.
Yeah, and we'll put up a bunch of pictures too, so people can find it and link to everything.
Or I can pick out ones and send to you or whatever.
That's perfect. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for chatting. And thank you guys for listening. And if you want to hear about more nerdy stuff, tune in next week. And if you like this podcast and want to tell your friends, we would love you forever. And you can leave us a rating or review, which helps us out a lot. But have a great week, everyone. Stay nerdy, and we will talk to you later. Bye.